the great teams overcome adversity, because in adversity, there's opportunity.
No matter what they did, we had an answer for it.
And I want to be able to count on the Notre Dame spirit.
The desire to just be the best.
We're going to get them on a run. We're going to go, 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 go. And we aren't going to stop until we go to that goal line.
Notre Dame football didn't start with Knute Rockne, but national championships did. He won 3 in his 13 seasons as head coach at the University of Notre Dame. And this year marks the 100th anniversary of Notre Dame's first national championship. There's so many incredible storylines from 1924. The wild popularity of player turned coach Knute Rockne. Notre Dame's run-in with the KKK. You may have heard of the 4 Horsemen, but what about the 7 Mules, the shock troops? From cross-country travel to hometown hype. All of this put a small Midwestern Catholic university on a path to national prominence that Irish fans celebrate to this day. I'm Tricia Sloma. Join us for Knute Rockne and a Century of Champions. America in the Roaring 20s. There was prosperity, innovation, and football. 1924 was a special year.
It was the 7th year for Coach Knute Rockne, so he had been around.
Acclaimed author and historian Jim Lefebvre wrote the Rockne biography, Coach for a Nation, and the book Loyal Sons, the story of the 4 Horsemen.
It was a fascinating year, not just at Notre Dame, not just in college football, but in things going on across the country, the development of radio, for instance, covering college football amongst the political conventions and other big stories of the day. Plans for the Golden Gate Bridge being announced. Everywhere you turn, there was something new and exciting happening in American development and culture, and college football, the explosion of college football was right there with it.
On 1, 2, 3.
Notre Dame was enjoying the success of college football with their charismatic head coach. In March of 1924, Notre Dame signed Rockne to a 10-year deal.
Look at this. He was athletic director and football coach. 1 page.
Retired South Bend attorney and local collector Andy Nickel showed me the 1-page contract signed by Knute Rockne and Notre Dame president Father Matthew Walsh.
10-year contract he signed in 1924, the year they went on to win the national championship. $10,000 a year.
Worth it for this winning coach.
He had winning teams. He had undefeated teams in 1919 and 1920, led by the great George Gipp.
Affectionately known as the Gipper, George Gipp was the star of the team in Rockne's first year of coaching in 1918, but he died of pneumonia in 1920.
Ask them to go in there with all they've got. Win just 1 for the Gipper.
That's a young President Ronald Reagan as Gipp in the 1940 film Knute Rockne, All-American.
George Gipp, the singular star of his generation, extremely talented, extremely confident, also very difficult to coach. So he was a little bit of a coach's headache. After his untimely death, Rockne confided to a friend that as great as it was to coach a talent like Gipp, that wasn't his preference. His preference was to develop an entire team and coach it well and have it come together in a cohesive unit. And the fellows who arrived on campus in the fall of 1921 would be that team.
A team that showed off the forward pass. No, Notre Dame didn't invent it, but Knute Rockne did use it often and effectively.
He throws a long pass. It's a long one way up the field.
And by 1924, Rockne had developed a plan to keep his men from wearing down.
So other teams played their biggest 11 guys for 60 minutes. Rockne worked so deep into his roster that he developed an entire second unit. They were called the shock troops, an entire second unit that he would start the games, take the shock out of the opponent's regulars for up to a quarter and play them evenly before he brings in the Notre Dame regulars. It was brilliant strategy and it worked to perfection. It helped keep his regulars a lot fresher through the course of the season.
The season started out strong, but that 1924 Army game was the real test. Turns out the blue-gray October matchup at the Polo Grounds in New York gave the Irish more than a victory. It would launch a legendary sports image that would stand the test of time. A highlight every season is the shirt, and this year's design is a nod to the national champions of 1924, specifically the Four Horsemen. While today's students and fans wear this image on their shirts, very few may actually know the complete details behind it. It was a publicity stunt that caught on, thanks to great writing, clever thinking, and an Irish win over Army, led by 4 key players.
There were 4 incredible athletes playing for a coach who envisioned how they could work together and be nearly unstoppable.
In his book, Loyal Sons, Jim Lefebvre details the ride of the Four Horsemen and the 1924 team that won Notre Dame's first national title.
The little Harry Stuhldreher at quarterback, 5'8", 142 pounds, dripping wet. It's almost inconceivable today that this guy could be quarterback in a major college football team, but he was.
His halfbacks, Don Miller from Defiance, Ohio, and Jim Crowley from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Elmer Layden from Davenport, Iowa, was the fullback.
They're situated that any one of the 4 of them can take the snap from center. So it creates a dizzying array of possibilities. And in fact, it wasn't always the quarterback who threw the pass. Crowley or Miller could be easily the passer.
This combination destroyed opponents and earned that iconic nickname. So where did it come from?
So George Strickler was a student at the university. He was a sophomore, and Rockne had appointed him as his student publicity aide long before the days of sports information departments or anything else like that.
Strickler hung out with the national press, and at the Army game, he spoke up in the press box.
It was his suggestion at halftime of the Army game that the Notre Dame backfield resembled the Four Horsemen.
In reference to a popular Rudolph Valentino movie called The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
That's what planted the seed for Grantland Rice, one of these national writers, to write his story outlined against the blue-gray October sky.
Grantland Rice's story appeared on the front page of the Sunday edition of the New York Herald Tribune. The first few lines launching the Four Horsemen into Irish icons for eternity. Here's our George Mallet.
Outlined against a blue-gray October sky, the Four Horsemen rode again. In dramatic lore, they are known as famine, pestilence, destruction, and death. These are only aliases. Their real names are Stuhldreher, Miller, Crowley, and Layden.
When the boys got home to South Bend, George Strickler went to work, finding 4 horses and a photographer to take this famous photo.
Over the course of time, this photo is appearing in papers across the country. The nickname is sticking. And then, of course, the famous story goes, a newspaper reporter in one town that Notre Dame was playing in knocked on the door at the hotel and said, "Is this where I can find the Four Horsemen?" And it was one of the linemen, and he just shrugged and said, "Nah, we're just the 7 Mules."
All 4 of these men would later become coaches. Layden coached at Notre Dame in the 1930s and even went on to become a commissioner in the NFL. Don Miller eventually returned to Ohio, where he was a U.S. district attorney and judge in Cleveland.
I don't think any of them expected the fame that came with that season.
We tracked down Don Miller's grandson, Tim Thompson.
You know, what struck me in talking with him and other members of the Four Horsemen is, they were regular college seniors at the time, right, that enjoyed being together, were certainly playing for a demanding coach and a very innovative coach, were striving for excellence, but they just really were having fun and had an amazing experience their senior season.
An experience that only got better as this team kept winning. These young men in their Catholic school had something to prove. You see, there was another battle being waged in America at this time that brought the KKK to South Bend in the spring of 1924. The winning ways of the 1924 Fighting Irish gave South Bend and Notre Dame a much-needed image boost. What a lot of people don't realize is that in the 1920s, the Ku Klux Klan was gaining power for their white supremacist ideologies, but also for their disdain of Catholics and Jews. And in May of that year, the KKK announced it was coming to South Bend to stage a protest against Catholics. The result? A 3-day confrontation on the streets of South Bend. My colleague Joshua Short interviewed a historian and author, Todd Tucker, about the rise of the KKK and how Notre Dame students and players fought back.
This is an important corner in the city's history, but also the state's history.
Yeah, right here was the site of the South Bend Klan headquarters in 1924, and that was a focal point of the riots. The students gathered and eventually kind of had that building under siege and knocked out all the windows, and that was the center of Klan power in St. Joe County.
University officials were concerned in the weeks and days leading up to the plans. Then Police Chief Larry Lane told the director for off-campus students and other university officials, "If necessary, I shall deputize enough men to stop it. And moreover, I shall make preparations for a machine gun and tear bomb attack if necessary."
We're at was formerly the site of the College Football Hall of Fame, but in 1924, this was the location of a pool hall called Hully and Mike's. It was a hangout for Notre Dame students, the majority of whom lived off campus at the time in town. And on day 2 of the riots, May 19th, it became kind of a makeshift hospital and retreat point as the Notre Dame students were taking a beating that day.
Nonetheless, the planned parade didn't go as planned for the Klan, as seen in some of these headlines, which reverberated around the country at the time. Soon after the riot, this scathing letter was left for the university president, reading in part, "You can thank your lucky stars that you have your buildings intact. For if the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan assembled in South Bend last Saturday had been as lawless as your bunch of anarchist students, they would have wiped the Notre Dame buildings off the earth. Signed, a Kluxer."
Talk about the significance of this location.
This was really a critical spot in that whole weekend because this is really where it came to a close. The Notre Dame students in retreat, they kind of gathered here, and Father Walsh, who had tried his best to ignore the riot, then he tried to prevent the students from participating, he reluctantly came out here and gave a kind of a very dramatic speech right here on the courthouse lawn where he implored the students to return to campus.
Knute Rockne was there too, telling the students, especially his players, to go back to Notre Dame.
And they did, and that brought the Notre Dame Klan riot to a close, May 19th, 1924.
You hear the term Fighting Irish. There is actual history when it comes to that, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a stereotype. That originated as an insult about kind of Irish immigrants and their kind of belligerent nature, and then it's something that the Irish eventually embraced and made the mascot of their favorite university.
Yet another reason to call them the Fighting Irish in an unforgettable year. Meanwhile, the football team kept winning and attracting fans across the nation. But Knute Rockne helped that cause. We'll tell you how the trip to the Rose Bowl was a cross-country PR tour. In 1924, Notre Dame was fighting more than tough football teams. They were fighting anti-immigrant, anti-Catholic prejudice across the country. Every contest became an opportunity to show the world what Notre Dame was all about.
And the 1924 team is the first football team of any kind to play games in New York City, Chicago, and the Los Angeles area in the same season. It had never been done. It had never been contemplated, really, until Rockne made it happen with this team.
Only 4 games were played at Notre Dame's Cartier Field that season, but they included tough teams from Georgia Tech and Nebraska.
So it was a kind of a gauntlet of games that they had to continue to win.
Another big game that season, Notre Dame played Northwestern at Chicago's brand new Grant Park Stadium. Just a year later, this venue would be renamed Soldier Field.
They traveled to these cities and built up fan bases around the country.
I spoke with historian, author, and New York Times columnist Terry Golway.
They were building up fan bases wherever they went, in part, of course, because of their appeal to Irish Americans. But in 1924, immigrants themselves were part of the political equation. And I think that a lot of immigrants responded to Notre Dame because of their proud ethnic roots. And they're winning. They're really good. They're beating all of these great schools.
But one great school remained, and that was unbeaten Stanford, led by the legendary Pop Warner. When it came time to play in Pasadena, Notre Dame didn't go straight there. They took their sweet time. It was a chance for Knute Rockne to show off his team.
Of course, all train travel back then. They gathered after their team banquet in December in Chicago and took off from there, but instead of heading west to Los Angeles, they went south.
South to Memphis, then to New Orleans. Next was Houston, then Tucson, Arizona.
Every place they stopped, the local bishop would be involved. There would be a special banquet.
Finally, the team made it to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. Their 27-10 victory over Stanford made national headlines. So that meant even bigger celebrations on the long way home. From Pasadena, the team went north to San Francisco, then to Salt Lake City, Cheyenne, Wyoming. Next was Denver, Colorado, then Lincoln, Nebraska, and on to Chicago.
And so it really was a 3-week-long celebration of Notre Dame and Notre Dame football to put forward the best face of the university and the football team.
It was Knute Rockne's first of 3 national titles. He would win again in 1929 and 1930. That's the same year Notre Dame opened a beautiful new stadium. The house that Rockne built was something he only enjoyed for 1 season. Coming up, Knute Rockne's untimely death and a special homecoming 93 years in the making. At Augie's locker room in South Bend, you'll find treasures from Notre Dame's football past.
We want to preserve history here. We want people to come in and see artifacts that no one can see over on campus. And I've tried to do this since I was a kid, collect memorabilia that reflected Notre Dame's history.
Hanging on the wall is this gem. Yes, Knute Rockne was an ambassador for Studebaker. There was even a car named after him.
Studebaker contract 12 days before he died. And he's now going to get paid as much by Studebaker as he's getting paid by Notre Dame.
Retired attorney and local collector Andy Nickel showed me a contract signed in March of 1931.
He could have gone on to become a great ambassador and speaker throughout the country, and unfortunately that was cut short.
Cut short by a plane crash in a Kansas farm field. Augie has photos and artifacts from the crash on display. Just think about it. In 1931, Knute Rockne was at the height of his career. He had 3 national titles, a brand new stadium, and multiple endorsements. His shocking death made headlines around the world. But in April of 2024, The Rock made headlines again when his casket was exhumed from a South Bend cemetery and reburied here at the University of Notre Dame.
You know, I mean, he's been here 93 years, and who would have thought that we were attempting to do this?
Jean Ann Rockne is the granddaughter of legendary coach Knute Rockne, or Knute, as his family calls him.
My father is the youngest son of Knute and Bonnie.
We visited her family's plot at Highland a week before the move.
This is grandfather Knute, And this is Grandmother Bonnie. And this is my Uncle Bill. Across the way is my youngest brother, Timothy.
Coach's funeral at the time was tremendous. It's the number of people that attended on campus.
Numerous dignitaries, so it was a major event, yes, it was huge.
By then, Rockne had converted to Catholicism, so why was he buried across town and not at his beloved Notre Dame?
Cedar Grove at the time did not have perpetual care, mowing grass and that sort of thing.
Travis Childs is the St. Joseph County historian and local cemetery expert.
Highland was a fairly new cemetery. They had perpetual care, and that's why Miss Rockne chose it.
Grandma was very concerned that Grandpa's grave not turn into a memorial site.
And yet, that happened often at Highland. The jagged corners and burn marks show where, through the years, people chipped away at the coach's headstone and snuffed out their cigars. The family hopes fans will be more respectful at Cedar Grove.
And Notre Dame has picked a very special spot for this family, so I feel very honored. And I'm more at peace with this decision now.
I'm glad he's here. I know Notre Dame will look after the family, so I feel comfortable knowing that he'll be cared for forever.
How do you feel?
I'm sad, and I feel very relieved. And everybody is at home where they belong now.
Back home at Notre Dame. Coming up, the Fighting Irish spirit lives on. Join me for conversations with family, players, and coaches from the national championships that followed.
All the great teams overcome adversity, because in adversity, there's opportunity.
No matter what they did, we had an answer for it.
And I want to be able to count on the Notre Dame spirit.
The desire to just be the best.
We're going to get them on a run. We're going to go. And we aren't going to stop until we go to that goal line.
There was a 45-year stretch when Notre Dame didn't play in a bowl game. It was a self-imposed ban, but they still managed to win national championships. 4 of them were won by Frank Leahy, and he had a special connection to this team.
And you didn't get that man out there, Leahy. Get your head on the inside of him, Frank. Carry him out.
Frank Leahy played on 2 national championship teams for Notre Dame under Knute Rockne, 1929 and 1930.
And Rockne saw something in Leahy.
I spoke with Leahy's grandsons, first cousins Ryan and John Leahy.
The desire to just be the best, and he instilled it in himself more than anyone, and then of course on his players too. And I know he got that from playing for Rockne.
Both of them love to compete, because I know Rockne was a multi-sport athlete here. You know, he did so many things. I mean, that was part of it, loved to compete. And I think he installed that in Frank very much, because Frank loved to compete.
And Frank fell in love with coaching. He started while injured his senior year.
His senior year, he coached the freshman football team, or as a line coach, so that's how he started coaching.
After graduating, Leahy coached at schools like Georgetown, Michigan State, and Boston College before returning to Notre Dame. He coached the Irish from 1941 to 43 and from 1946 to 53, spending 2 years in the Navy during World War II. Relentless and hard driving, Leahy led 4 national title teams. He coached 4 Heisman Trophy winners and recruited a 5th. Frank and his wife Florence had 8 children. Ryan's dad, Jim Leahy, played for Ara Parseghian. Ryan played for Lou Holtz.
Grandfather playing for Rockne, and obviously then he coached. Then my father came here. He was on the '66 national championship team. I am the only Leahy to go to Notre Dame, play football, and not win a national championship.
But he was a captain, and he played for a championship coach who liked to kid around with him.
We're out having practice, and I'd made a mistake, and he suddenly stops. He goes, "That's it. Hold practice. Everybody stop. I just got an epiphany." He goes, I figured it out. I figured it out. Frank Leahy was a brilliant football coach. Absolutely brilliant. And he took it all from his family and left him with nothing.
Ryan was a baby when his grandfather passed away, but John was older and remembers him well. This is a photo of his grandfather offering advice to John and his brother at a Pop Warner football game.
He was always very meticulous about how to handle the ball and how to handle your teammates and everything else. So he instilled a lot of drive and determination, discipline in us at a very young age.
Leahy went on to become the general manager of the Los Angeles Chargers when they started in 1960. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1970. Frank Leahy died in 1973 at the age of 64 in Portland, Oregon. Coming up, Notre Dame entered a bit of a national championship drought through the 50s and early 60s until a rival team's coach took over. The 50s and early 60s were a tough time for South Bend. By 1963, Studebaker closed, leaving thousands of local workers unemployed. It wasn't a good time for Notre Dame football either. In fact, there was a long stretch of losing teams. Notre Dame lost to Northwestern 4 straight years. That all changed when Notre Dame hired their head coach, Ara Parseghian. We did some digging and found this 2009 interview by my former colleague Maureen McFadden about the era of Ara.
And here come the Fighting Irish, ready for their first game under new head coach Ara Parseghian.
This opportunity at Notre Dame opened up in 1964, and I was fortunate enough to get the Notre Dame job. I felt that there were a lot of characteristics that I was presented with at Northwestern that were here at Notre Dame. For example, the high admission requirements, the number of scholarships being limited. I'd gone through that. I did that, and we discussed every player every day. We did not want a good football player sitting on the bench. We would switch positions. We had a number of guys that were playing, wanted to be quarterbacks, wound up in the defensive secondary.
The result? Winning teams. In Parseghian's third season, the Irish won a national championship after a 51-0 win over USC. But that season is perhaps most remembered for what was billed the game of the century. That's when Parseghian opted to run out the clock against Michigan State and settle for a tie, the only blemish on an otherwise perfect season. The Irish returned to playing bowl games in 1970, and by 1973, found themselves in the Sugar Bowl against a fierce Alabama team led by the great Bear Bryant. The underdog Irish won that national championship by just 1 point.
How does it feel for you to be seen as the person who saved Notre Dame football?
Oh gosh, I don't feel like I saved Notre Dame football. I mean, Notre Dame football was going to come back one way or another over a period of time.
Why did you decide to retire when you did?
Because I was only 51 when I stepped aside. But I'd been a head football coach for 25 years. And as a result, I think it took a physical toll on me. I don't think there's any question about it.
And I want to be able to count on the Notre Dame Spirit tomorrow afternoon.
And I knew what was happening to me. I knew that if I wanted to be around a while, I would probably have to step aside.
Parseghian retired in 1974. Years later, he would take on his biggest challenge, raising money and awareness for Niemann-Pick type C, a genetic disorder that claimed the lives of his 3 youngest grandchildren. Now, I am happy to report this exciting news from the Ara Parseghian Medical Research Fund at the University of Notre Dame. Recently, the FDA approved the first drugs to be used to treat patients of Niemann-Pick type C. Now, it's not a cure, but it is a major breakthrough that slows the progression of this disease. Truly another championship moment. Coming up, Comeback Joe, the '77 championship team, and Dan Devine Jr. sets the story straight on the movie Rudy.
In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself. And after what you've gone through, if you haven't done that by now, it ain't gonna never happen.
That's a scene from the movie Rudy. Shot on Notre Dame campus, it was released in 1993. A lot of locals served as movie extras. There was even a premiere in downtown South Bend. The movie was based on a true story about a walk-on named Daniel Rudy Rudiger. Now, not everything was true. Head coach Dan Devine was portrayed as a sort of villain in the movie, and that couldn't be farther from the truth.
They came to him and they said, Rudy wants to make a movie. So my dad said, great.
I talked to Dan Devine Jr. to set the story straight.
So my dad wanted to help Rudy as much as possible, and he thought it would be a really, really good story. So he said, okay, you need a heavy, I'll be the heavy.
Only Coach Devine didn't know how heavy they would make him.
He was most disappointed in the movie is the scene where they're putting the jerseys on his desk. And that did not happen.
The movie may leave viewers with a distorted view of Devine. But for those who are around in the 70s, Devine's legacy is sealed with the 1977 National Championship. That came after the Cotton Bowl Classic and an incredible win over #1 Texas.
Ross Browner starts the game out causing a fumble. And you know, from that point on, Texas just didn't have anything. And they have the Heisman Trophy winner.
That was Earl Campbell, and Bob Golick had his number.
It just seemed like everywhere I went on the field, Earl was trying to run through. There's some games where you don't get near the running back very much. You know, you're getting blocked by different guys. This game, it always seemed like it was me and Earl.
Golick had one of the best games of his life, earning defensive MVP.
I ended up with 18 tackles on Earl, to which he still does. He says, I still don't think it was 18. I said, yeah, it was. I blocked an extra point and got a fumble, and it just seemed like everything was going back our way. No matter what they did, we had an answer for it.
The Irish came into that game ranked 5th, a position they held mostly because of a loss to unranked Ole Miss in the second game, a loss they worked hard to overcome.
If you're going to lose, lose early.
And dominate the big games.
We had these games where we're down to about 30-10. And then Joe gets put back in, and next thing you know, we win the game.
One of the best quarterbacks of all time, Montana posted incredible numbers at Notre Dame. Our team talked to Montana about his time with the Irish.
We had a great group of players, you know, while I was there. I think when I first got there too, and we had a monster team. When I walked into that locker room for the first time, seeing the size of our defense, geez, I mean, I still stay in touch with one of my guys I talk to all the time. There were a lot of laughs. I mean, there were a lot of characters, you know, the whole Rudy thing took place for us. And our guys carried him off being funny. And I don't know how to explain it. It just, I can't stop smiling thinking about the days back then.
We're smiling too, Joe. Up next, my interview with legendary head coach Lou Holtz, how he inspired his players to play like a champion today. It's an important ritual at the University of Notre Dame. Before every game, Notre Dame players hit this sign that says, "Play like a champion today." Now, this particular sign wasn't put up by any of the coaches we've highlighted so far. No, it was put up only about 40 years ago by new head coach Lou Holtz. He's 87 now, and I got the chance to interview him at his Orlando home about what he says is his favorite tradition at Notre Dame.
Well, it would have to be play like a champion today because of how that came about. I get to Notre Dame late November of 85.
Delighted to be here. I'm proud to be named the 25th head football coach at the University of Notre Dame.
I checked out all the books on Notre Dame football. I wanted to read as much about it as I could. And one of the books I'm looking at, there's a picture of the team going out, hitting a sign, play like a champion today. And I asked what happened to that sign. Nobody knew. Nobody remembered it. But obviously it was there because I saw the picture. So I said, we're going to get that sign painted. And we're going to hit that on the way out the field. And we're going to hit it and remember all the people responsible for us to being at Notre Dame. Our parents, our teachers, our coaches. But also, we're going to understand the obligation we have by being at Notre Dame. And that's how that came about.
The artist was Lori Wenger. In a 2007 interview, she told me about the request.
Coach Holtz wants this, and said, play like a champion today. He wanted it in blue and gold, so I used the colors that I had at the time, and that's what he got. It ended up being part of history.
That's not the only thing Holtz brought back to Notre Dame. In 1988, he and his players won the national championship. It was in his third season, but in many ways, Holtz was starting over. That 1988 season, though, to say it was a rebuilding year that's laughable. But it was a rebuilding year. You had to start from scratch.
We basically did.
Before the 88 season started, Holtz changed up his coaching staff. He brought in Jim Strong as his new offensive coordinator and picked a new defensive coordinator by the name of Barry Alvarez. He no longer had key players like Tim Brown.
Touchdown Irish! A leaping catch by Timmy Brown!
The Heisman Trophy winner graduated the year before, and the schedule was tough.
You looked at the schedule, you didn't know, but we didn't worry about that. We just wanted to play every game. But I remember talking to our football team in the spring of that championship season. I said to them, you don't come to Notre Dame to win some of the games. You don't come to Notre Dame to win most of the game. You come to Notre Dame to win all the games.
And in 88, they did. They went 12-0. It was a brutal schedule that started with a familiar foe.
The team. We opened up with Michigan. You never knew how your team was going to respond, but I did know this. With Michigan being our opening game, I'd have the entire focus of our football team. There was no fooling around. They knew we had to be at our best.
Ninth-ranked Michigan fell to the Irish in 88 by a score of 19-17.
An ugly few moments down there in the end zone. Pushing and shoving broke out.
What a moment from Game 6, October 15th, 1988. The Catholics versus Convicts game. Notre Dame upset undefeated #1 ranked Miami at Notre Dame Stadium. It's still one of the most talked about games in football history, especially that ending when Miami went for 2 to win the game. The pass knocked down by Notre Dame. And who could forget the final game of the regular season, #1 USC versus #2 Notre Dame in LA. That's quarterback Tony Rice running 65 yards into the end zone in just the second play of the game, setting the tone for a huge 27-10 Irish victory.
Touchdown Irish!
And so it came down to the Fiesta Bowl, #3 West Virginia versus #1 Notre Dame. The January 2nd game between two undefeated teams was handled by the Irish. The final score, 34-21, a victory that was destiny for the Irish.
You want to be as good as you could and play as well as you could, but you had an obligation to make sure that we upheld the tradition of Notre Dame. Playing hard, never giving up, playing for each other, playing with sportsmanship. All those things were important, but that all builds into a national championship.
Coming up next, Lou shares what he misses most about the University of Notre Dame. And Marcus Freeman tells us why Notre Dame's traditions help secure the future of the Fighting Irish. Lou Holtz once said, "Every day, some ordinary person does something extraordinary. Today, it's your turn." At the University of Notre Dame, it's now Marcus Freeman's turn to lead the Irish. He sat down with our Jackson Neal to share how Notre Dame's history attracts new talent.
One of the greatest strengths we have is the love for Notre Dame, right? The love for this place. We have to make sure we're getting kids here that want to be here, want to develop, believe in this university and what it can do for you, but also believe in this football program.
And what can this university, what can this football program do for these kids?
Well, I think as a football program that you give them a chance to reach their goals. How do you do that? By reaching full potential. If you reach your full potential, we'll see if that's good enough to take you to the NFL, to win the championships that we all aspire to have. But what this university can do for you is tremendous. We have an unbelievable network. Our education is so special. The alumni, this place is going to give you an opportunity to have success for the rest of your life. You know, it didn't take me long to figure out how special this place is. More than anything, it's the relationships you get to build with people around here. That's what I've been able to do over the course of the last 3 years, is develop more relationships. I knew right away how special this place is, and I get a chance to see it over and over and over. When I get a chance to speak to people or see it through our players, it's a special, special place.
A special place that holds memories for every student, fan, player, or coach who steps foot on this hallowed ground. As Lou Holtz told me, Notre Dame is still on his mind and in his heart. Lou, what do you miss most about South Bend and Notre Dame?
Well, I don't miss the winter months. Being honest, I miss the campus, I miss the students, I miss the grotto, I miss the basilica. College football at Notre Dame is not the game. It's the pep rally the night before. It's the band playing on the steps of administration on the morning of the game. It's about Sacred Heart. It's about just being on that campus and love the feeling they have for one another. That was so easy in Notre Dame because the things that I believed in were the same things that Notre Dame believed in. We weren't doing the athletes a favor by lowering the standard. Here at Notre Dame, and be the very best you can be, and all I ask is when your 4 years are up, have no regrets. Take advantage of the 4 years you're there to improve yourself in every area of your life.
Beautiful advice.
It's just what I believe.
And we believe there's still a lot of history to be made here. 100 years after Knute Rockne and Notre Dame's first national championship, celebrating the next century of champions.